Oh my goodness. Okay, here we are. And we are live.
Yay.
Live. We're live. We should do like the live dance.
We're live.
We're live. We're live.
We're live.
We're live. We're live. Oh yes, we are. We're live.
Coming back on the internet that it's working no matter what.
The magic of the internet is happening for us now.
Yeah.
And if you're out there, you're watching us, do me a favor, just throw a little comment in and say, we can hear you both okay. I want to say hi, Lisa Nichols. So we are here today with the amazing, with the New York Times best-selling offer.
I make great offer.
Internationally renowned speaker, internationally renowned, been on Oprah's couch, been on In the Secret, just the fabulous Lisa Nichols. Yay! Yay! Okay, people are making comments. Love Lisa. I can hear you. Hi, ladies. Juliana, Shauna. Oh, wonderful. Cynthia.
Nice too. Love you back.
Oh, this is so great because I was just telling Lisa before we came on to be here live that this book, let me just put this on the screen. I know that all of you read this book because this is what we've been doing this past month with the book club. But if you know someone that doesn't have this book, buy it for them because this book is phenomenal. This is like, and I was telling you, and I really mean this is like the handbook for life. If you only had one book that you're on a desert island, this.
Yeah.
Because it covers everything.
Yeah. That book is the secret sauce. It took so much for me to write that book. That book took a lot out of me because I wanted to give you everything that I needed, that I didn't even know I needed it at the time. You know, it was one of those hindsight, and it's so much reflection on how did I get to a particular place based on where I was thinking, how did I get into that challenge? It seemed so amazing at the time. I fused my story so you can see real life experience with that opt-in. Is this you? And you can measure where you are. So it's like an autobiographical book fueled with a workbook, fueled with, so you're in the conversation. It's like if you're checking those boxes, we're in a dialogue. And so to this day, with several bestsellers after that one has come out, it's still what I consider my best, most profound, most riveting, most vulnerable, most explosive piece of work. I think it will always be in the history of my favorite.
Yeah, this is, it's unbelievable because at any moment you can simply just open it up to anywhere, no matter what you're going through. And there's like this wisdom. I loved it. There's so many chapters developing and while we're talking, if anybody has a question, go ahead and post it in the comments and I'll keep an eye on the comments. So if you have a question, you've read the book, you've been ooching to ask Lisa any question you want, go for it.
If you want behind the black curtain, then you can ask. Now listen, here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. You can ask me anything, as long as you can handle the answer. As you can see, no matter what, was a no holds bar book. It was a no holds bar conversation. I took for liberty that you can handle and wanted and needed the truth. And sometimes the truth doesn't come served with warm cookies and milk. Sometimes the truth stings, or the truth is just like, ouch. But I needed to hear that, that kind of thing. So ask me anything, because that was the book where I freed my soul. I freed and liberated the Lisa I was becoming. And what I love about that book is you can pick it up 3 years from now, 5 years from now, going through something, and you can look up the muscle. Like you can just pick the muscle and Yes, I need that right now. So it's I designed and wrote it to be an organic living piece of work that grows with you and moves with you. And I love everyone saying that you love me. Thank you so much. I see all your comments. I love you too. You know that. I'll show you love. Thank you.
Oh, somebody said love Liz too. Don't worry. I know, but it's Lisa's power, because I really, I just want to honor you for, so many different reasons. Of course, the book. This book is just tremendous, and we're going to go through it. And I actually have some questions myself.
I haven't had a chance to live in this book in such a long time, because I've had books since then, and they were a big deal, and people loved the books, and Larry King and Dr. Phil and all the stuff that happened after that book. And so I always go, no matter what is the best, like, don't sleep on, because it's not the latest. Don't sleep on it. It's a bounce back muscle book. And in this climate, man, when it comes to you want to sharpen your bounce back muscle, it is a bounce back muscle book all day long. And then it's a leap forward. It is a move from any form of unsolid foundation to solid foundation to certainty. So, question.
Absolutely. Okay, so Maria has a question. What is the genius of your inner child, and how and when do you use it now?
Ooh, the genius of my inner child is she's creative. She doesn't ask for the rules before she begins to create possibility. So my inner child doesn't live risk aversion. My inner child lives possibility creation. And so I logically come in as the adult and I go, okay, so that's a great idea, little Lisa. Now let's figure out, how do we make that work? But she's free. She's unbridled. She's a butterfly. She wants you to see all of her colors. So my inner child genius really is, I don't play out of the box when my inner child genius is engaged. My inner child genius recognizes that there is no box. There is no box. And then when you ask, the second part of that question was?
Where'd it go? Hold on a second. And how and when do you use it now?
In this season, honey, I'm using her all the time to find out what's my contribution in this climate, in this social injustice climate, in this pivot climate, in this COVID-19 climate, in this, at home with your family climate, in this woman rediscovering herself second season, second act climate. And so I look at this climate and I go, I don't want to keep track on what I've ever done. I don't want to keep track on what the business needs. I don't want to keep track on what the world would say about Lisa. What does my spirit say I need to be doing? And so I don't check the temperature of what's happening in the world to see how I can play. I ask my soul, what's the calling on you right now? What are you supposed to do right now? What's the contribution you can bring? What's the pain you can help eliminate? And a part of that is my inner child genius is going, let's go do it. And then I don't check with my team. I don't check with my social media. I don't check to see, is it okay that I do this? I turn around and give notice. Here's what we're doing, because that's what I'm supposed to do right now. And it's in a big pivot at times. I've done a big pivot this year, as so many people have. And I use her to sit in certainty. And then I back into the strategy of how to make it happen. I just don't run aimlessly, but I don't choose and create with restriction. I choose and create with unbridled freedom. And then I back into now, how are we going to make that happen so that there's no restriction on my creation?
I love that. I am going to use that. Because we've been, you know what we do here at Mishka Productions at Celebrate Your Life. We do live events, and pivoting and adjusting and adapting, it's been challenging, but I love that. And I hope my team is listening, because now I'm going to be my unbridled creative genius inner child.
Yeah, and the job of a team is not to constrict the visioneer. The job of a team is to let the visioneer have a vision and then ask the question, how do we back into making that vision happen? It took a long time for me to understand that, and for my team to understand that. And that was several iterations of my team ago. Now my team lives in it. And so my job is to chart new frontier and not to be afraid that we might hit a rock when we're charting this new frontier and I'm at the helm of the ship. It's okay. We hit a rock. We have a hole in the boat. We've mended it before. And so your job is to not chart new frontier trying to avoid hitting the rock. And most people are charting new frontier trying to avoid hitting the rock. So you never get to this island. Well, there are rocks in between you and this amazing island called the destination. Look at the destination and manage the rock.
Okay. So we're going to hit rocks and that's okay.
Listen, here's the last statement. The bigger you play, the bigger your breakdowns. And if you're not having breakdowns, you're not playing big enough. So please stop trying to avoid the breakdown. Just embrace.
Oh my goddess. Okay, good. Because I've been having lots of breakdowns.
The bigger you play, the bigger your breakdowns. And if you're not having breakdowns, you probably are not playing big enough.
So many oh shit moments. Absolutely. Okay, so we have a question, and Jana has asked this before. She lives in the UK, and there's a different edition in the UK on Amazon. Is there, in terms of the book, does it matter which edition she picks? Or is it pretty much
so no matter what was translated into 34 different languages.
Wow.
And so they changed the titles based on what fits that community. Some of the titles are kind of funky. They didn't make sense, but I didn't have control over that. And the content in the book is pretty much the same. Sometimes they edit it out because it didn't translate exactly the same, but it's the same content, so you can get it.
Oh, perfect. Somebody wants to know how many times a day you laugh.
Oh, wow. I don't know if I laugh more than a dozen, but I can tell you I smile so much that my jaws, like I literally just kind of do this. But then again, today is whatever day today is in September. So I'm less than 30 days engaged. So smiling all day is a part of my thing these days.
Yes.
Because I'm just but I smile of my hours up. I probably smile about 90 to 93% of that time. I go into laughter often. I laugh at myself. I laugh at myself publicly. I laugh at things that don't make sense. I don't live in my intellect only. I allow my little girl out. I allow my freedom, soul seeker out. So the difference between me and most people is that I allow all of Lisa to play in every situation all the time. So I don't go visit my humorous side because I'm like a bootleg underexpressed comedian. I'm silly. And yet it doesn't compromise my brilliance. So I let them all collide, and I let them collide publicly, like in front of last week, I did an event and I had 1,200 people there. And like someone typed in chat, she literally should do stand up. And I wasn't planned. I'm an opportunist inside comedy. So I laugh a lot, but I smile more. And and what I'm grateful for is that it's a smile that emanates from within. It's not a painted on smile because I think that's what you need to see. I think that's what you expect from me. It is a natural smile that's harder for me not to give you than to.
And it releases endorphins. So I love that. So I want to ask you a little bit about in chapter 8. Okay. Chapter 8, forgiveness. Anytime someone writes about forgiveness, I always, and I just want to share with you, for those of you who haven't picked up the book yet, this is a handbook. This is a book that will take you through, not only does Lisa share personal stories, but she shares such amazing wisdom. And you also have all of these fantastic exercises. So you're doing it's a workbook, it's a wisdom book, it's an experiential book. So it's a really, really, I think it's one of the most important books out there. So one of the things that you talk about is forgiveness. And one of the things that I hear a lot, and I also personally experience, is how do we, what does forgiveness look like when you've been sexually abused or physically abused or some type of trauma? How does forgiveness work when,
wait, listen, you're asking me, and someone just walked in. I know you would not forgive me if I didn't pull him in. So Marcellus, come down there.
Hi. Lisa's fiance. Oh, what a treat. Hi. Oh, it's so beautiful to meet you. Oh, I love it.
So number one,
best appearance.
Right, that's the best appearance for the day. Number one, I couldn't invite him into my life if I hadn't touched forgiveness. So let's be very clear that forgiveness is not about just mending, finding peace with your past. Forgiveness is giving yourself permission to the future that you say you want. And so forgiveness is not about, and this is so critical. I could teach on forgiveness like literally for a week. Forgiveness is not about pardoning the behavior of the perpetrator. Forgiveness is not about giving the behavior that was imposed on you a pass. Forgiveness is not about acquiescing to the experience. Forgiveness is not about that. Forgiveness is about opening up the real estate in your body that's held hostage to hurt, pain, shame, blame, guilt, and regret and anger. I'll say that again. Forgiveness is about looking at that part of your soul, your body that's being held hostage. That's a strong set of words, Liz. Because when someone's held hostage, you're like, whoa, they have no control of where they are, right? Mm-hmm. If our emotions held hostage to a feeling. And normally the feeling that our emotions, that our future, that our energy is held hostage to lives in blame, shame, regret, anger, blame, shame, guilt, regret, or anger. And so forgiveness is not about pardoning the behavior. That was important for me to get. Mm-hmm. I'm going to forgive. It doesn't mean I condone. Forgiveness and condoning do not equal, right? But forgiveness says that I want to open up this part of my body that's right now, anger takes up residence, shame's taking residence, and I want to evict the anger and I want to find forgiveness and peace. Easier said than done. It is a process because you constantly get hooked on, does that mean it was okay?
Right.
Or it doesn't mean it was okay. But it does mean that I have the capacity to understand that you are in need of something that led you to violate my person, that you are ill with something that led you to violate my person. Can I tell you, when I ran into my former fiance and he had abused me, verbally and physically abused me. And he's 6'9". He was huge. He was just a monster in my head after we broke up. And I did forgiveness work. I did forgiveness work on him, for him, around him, but not because of him. One, I wanted to exercise and expand my compassion. I wanted to exercise and expand my empathy. I'm in the healing business. How do you heal? I can't heal and be committed to anger at the same time. I can't heal and give myself a pass to be angry at the same time. And it took a lot of work. I mean, it didn't happen overnight. It took like 3-4 years of concentrating on this one forgiveness exercise. And I do a lot of exercises at my events and at my conferences because I believe in interactive experiential learning. You know me, because until you see where that muscle is, that forgiveness muscle, the compassion muscle, the permission muscle, you really don't even know where your muscles are. And so when I finally ran into him unexpectedly, he was sobbing 13 years later. He's sobbing and asking for my forgiveness. Liz, I checked my entire person, and I write about him in this book. And at the time that I wrote about him in this book, I hadn't run into him again, right? I don't think I've run into him. But when he cried and asked for my forgiveness in front of 300 people, he totally caught me off guard and walked into this workshop in Atlanta. I checked my entire person. Yeah, he threw me off. He put me literally in front of my entire conference. He walked in and I couldn't fake it. And And he walked right up to me, and his wife walked up to me, and his wife said, "Can you please give me back my husband? He still emotionally belongs to you," because he had so much guilt, and he had so much, he was just so consumed with what he had done to me. And that he couldn't move on. He was with her, but apparently a part of him was still really locked in that relationship. And Liz, I gotta tell you, I checked every cell in my body, and it felt so good to honestly look up at him, at this person who was my monster. And I said, "I forgave you a long time ago, but I forgave you for me." And in the doing the work for me, you got my forgiveness. And so go live your life. Go, go be present to your wife. And as it relates to molestation and sexual, as a child, I was molested, and the anger I had once I remembered it, for the perpetrator, I didn't know him. I didn't know how to reach out to him. I was afraid if I did what I do, the anger that came up in me, it threw me into a turmoil of emotional tailspin. And so just know, if something comes up and it comes from the back of your file, and you get a video, photo montage of things in your past, then deal with it. Don't keep pushing it back. Like, do the work and deal with it. And that's why I live in personal development. Personal development has saved my life. It has saved my life. I teach personal development because I'm a wounded healer. If you're in chat and you know about being a wounded healer, like, I want people to have the grace, compassion, second chance, third chance, 19th chance that I've had, which is why I do this work, 99th chance. And so I made sure that as it related to being violated in any form, whether it's emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, that I remember that I'm not pardoning the behavior, that I'm acknowledging an illness. I'm acknowledging a lack. I'm acknowledging a hurt, and hurt people hurt. Sad people want other people to be sad. Angry people want company. And I don't live in that space with them, but I find as soon as I can feel the empathy and the compassion, then I step away and I go to heal Lisa. I don't keep, energy grows where energy goes. So don't keep making it about them. They are not the star of your show. They are not the star of your play. They're not the star of this act of your life. And as long as you keep giving your mother, your father, your ex, whoever, as long as you keep giving them all the attention, you've made them the star of your show. I kept saying, no. I'm the star, and I get to control me. I can't control them. I can control me. And
it's almost like you've been victimized once, and you're continuing to allow your life.
Oh my God! And the perpetrator has gone away. The perpetrator is no longer here, but they're forever alive and energetically present and incredibly powerful. And as a matter of fact, when someone is a conversation in your head and it looms and it keeps going, they actually get bigger. Right. I sat in Nelson Mandela's jail cell. I don't know if I wrote this in the book, but I sat in Nelson Mandela's jail cell for 8 hours in Johannesburg, South Africa. And I sat in his jail cell. It was ridiculous. No one's ever done that. The guy's like, what? And the gentlemen that were managing the tour, they knew about my work, and they were like, "Miss Nichols, will change the rules for you." They let me sit in this jail cell, and I sat in this little jail cell where there was no window. There was this bucket, and he had to carry this bucket. Apparently, Nelson Mandela had to carry the bucket around with him every day, and that was his toilet. And I looked at this sign, and there was a sign that showed how much he got to eat based on his complexion. And if you were white, you got the most to eat. If you were light brown, you got the second most to eat. If you were Indian, you got the second most to eat. But if you were my complexion, dark brown, you got the least amount to eat. So I looked at this list, noticing that Nelson Mandela had got the least amount of nourishment. In the winter, he froze because the window was open. In the summer, he roasted. He had to use the bathroom in this bucket. And somehow this man still came out and led the largest forgiveness movement in the history of any movement. So I sat there in that room, Liz, just wanting to download just 10% of his ability to forgive. And oh, by the way, Liz, when he led this movement with the officers that guarded him right beside him. He was freeing souls. And so we have so many, it takes the highest conscious version of yourself to find forgiveness, true forgiveness. And I want to touch the highest conscious version of myself. Okay, I know a lot more.
I love that. I love that. Perfect.
I get all excited about the stuff. There's a lot of
okay, my other like favorite, and anybody, if you have any questions, please share. But I do want to acknowledge, Lisa, that Lisa teaches an abundance of classes, and I know that you've moved online. You've had to move everything. We've all had to move everything online.
Yeah.
Go, and it's motivatingthemasses.com.
We actually have been online. We actually been teaching online for about 3 years now. So it was funny when everything shifted, my staff was kind of freaking out because there was nothing for us to shift. We were like, what do we do? What do we do? Everyone was like, yeah. And I was like, I think we're okay. I think we just scale up what we're doing. And so we've been online. Yeah, we've mastered interactive live online experiences. We've mastered, putting great content in your library, keeping you engaged, creating safe communities for you to speak on how you're growing, to hold you accountable to the woman that you say you want to become. We've mastered that.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I'm joining that one. So check it out. So Lisa's got an array of things going on at motivatingthemasses.com, and I posted the URL right there. But we are going to continue to talk about her book no matter what. So in the beginning of the book, you tell your story, which was you tell your story throughout most of the book. But this one piece, when you share about having this beautiful mother and father and this great support of mom and dad, and then you share about what happened in school and being moved into an all-white school and then being taken out again and the trauma that you went through. Can you talk a little bit about your understanding muscle, because that came into play, and about realizing that we're not a victim to our circumstances? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I was the first class of bus students to the Valley, and it was to integrate the school system, but they hadn't done enough culture preparedness in the Valley. So when all of these little African-American kids from the inner city got off the bus, we were greeted with a lot of hostility from parents. And it was in the late 70s, So I didn't know that anything still existed like that. Yeah. I remember saying, I didn't know that something was wrong with me until I went to an all-white school. And I was then told that God had left me in the toaster too long. God had dropped me in the tar pit, that God had left me in the oven too long. And at a fifth grade level, with all the fifth grade, teasing, all of a sudden, I remember for the first time me beginning to have a complex about my skin tone, about the size of my lips, about the texture of my hair, everything that I thought was beautiful about me, because my daddy said it was beautiful. If you remember, we opened up the book with my daddy brushing my hair. Right. So my dad, to this day, I am 54, and to this day, my dad will take down my braids for me. He will brush my hair for me. Like I'm such like a smitten daddy's girl. I'm just ridiculous. And so my dad had done this beautiful job of just, I'm just a beautiful goddess.
Princess, exactly.
Princess angel. And then all of a sudden it was like, and then all of these things that conflicted with who I knew myself to be. Now, for those of you who are listening, you had your moment, whatever your moment was, where all of a sudden the purity of who you were, of who you are, of who you're becoming, it was interrupted with someone's statement or life or something. And I remember that, I had to find a way to understand that they too were going through something. I had to find, because it was either that or be angry or be consumed with anger.
You do that as a in fifth grade. That's like, how as a kid you're just in pain because I understand.
Right. So there's age appropriate content, number one. I have a big faith. And so I always would lean on compassion. Like, what is it? Now, some people were just mean and they were hurting. And I've always sat at the feet of wiser people than me. Like, don't ever be the wisest person in the room. Like, sit at the feet of wiser people.
Exactly.
And I would pull from people, and conscious sources. So I've always been attracted to conscious sources. So I would go to some of my aunts and they would be riddled with anger about what I was experiencing. I knew that was dangerous for me because I never wanted to get stuck in anger. I never wanted to get stuck in hate. I don't ever want to get stuck in that. That's not my zip code, my residence. And so I could feel you can feel if you're moving in that direction because the tribe around you, they're condoning that feeling. I would move away from that. And I would go to someone that was more spiritual, that had a more faith-based conversation. I struggled for a while. So I'm not going to make you think that I immediately bounced back. For years, I just considered that I was ugly. For years, I considered that I was God's mistake. I mean, that happened from 5th grade to probably about 22 years old. I just kind of was like, I'm okay for a dark woman. I'm okay for a woman with full lips. Like, I would just give myself a pass. Unlike now, I think that I have a unique beauty that's mine. But
You're gorgeous. You're gorgeous.
It took a while to get there. It took a while to own that. And but what I kept doing is I kept raising my hand, Liz, saying, I want to own it. So even if you're not there, raise your hand and say, I want to be there, because you're telling your unconscious mind, we're not staying where we are. This is just a pit stop. So if you're somewhere mentally that this is not my home, tell your brain now. Tell your brain not just that this is not where we belong, because that's a restrictive statement. Tell your brain where you're going, because your brain is going to look for that. It's called cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is when you disrupt yourself by saying where we are is not where we belong. We belong there. And your brain goes, okay, well, let's figure out how to get there. And the brain just won't rest until it figures out how to get you there. And so I somehow kept saying, I know we're all the same. I know that we are humanity. I know that I'm equal to anyone, white, Black, Asian, Latina. I know that. Now, I didn't have any evidence, but that's what faith is. Don't always look for the evidence outside of you to determine your belief system. You got to hold on and choose a belief system, and you got to choose it even if it's not convenient.
We need to say that one more time. Do not look outside of yourself for your belief system.
Do not check outdoor for the temperature. Do not check the temperature in the world for what your temperature is going to be. If you check the temperature in the world for what your temperature is going to be, you are now a thermometer, meaning you walk in a room and you adopt that temperature. But when you set your temperature, and no matter what's going on, look, I said the word, no matter what's going on, you are that temperature. Now you move from being the thermometer to being the thermostat. Be the thermostat. Boom.
Do I hear a yes, yes from everybody out there?
Yes. Boom. Boom.
Yes, yes. All we need to hear today.
I love it. I know that's right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's just as much as, we've had you speak at our Women's Summit, our Celebrate Your Lives events, and just as amazing as you are a person, as you are right here, like coming across throughout the entire world. Be the thermostat.
Be the thermostat, especially now.
I love this. Listen to this. You are a beautiful Nubian goddess inside and out. Seeing you live at Celebrate Your Life, you had me in tears. Yes.
I see all the beautiful, beautiful people. Like, thank you for your wisdom. Judith says, I love your daddy. And Dodge says, hey, man. Yes. I love Lisa so much. I love you too, Dodge.
You are exactly what we need. You're exactly what we need, especially right now, especially with everything going on right now.
Yeah.
Your beauty, your strength, your wisdom.
And we were built for such a time as this. That if you operate, and when you go into the book and focus on the muscle that's your muscle for development right now. But go into the book as if you are a gladiator in training and you already know the outcome. We are winning this. Like, you were built for such a time as this. There's nothing, type in chat, nothing in this environment that has the ability to crack your human spirit. It may make your body feel weary. It may inconvenience you. It may test your patience. It may make your emotions go up and down, but nothing has the ability to break your human spirit. Your human spirit is unbreakable. Your human spirit is unshakable. Your human spirit is unstoppable. And in times like this, it's going, and now what? What part of you do you want to see? What best part of you do you want to see? Now, we get distracted. We look left, we look right, we get tired, we sit down, we're inside of a pivot, we get consumed with the fear of the unknown. But here's the deal. The best parts of you live in the unknown. You don't want to go back to the way it was. You already know what that looks like. You want to discover what you haven't seen yet. You want to say what you haven't said yet. You want to do what you haven't done yet, so you can be the woman that you've always known yourself to be. That's what you want. And that's a birthing process. That's a birthing process. Yes. I have not met a woman that's been in labor yet that said it was easy. It was a piece of cake. When you're birthing the next best version of you, you're going to feel the labor. Think about it. When someone goes into the hospital to have a child, they know labor is a part of the process, but all they're focused on is the outcome. Is it a girl? Is it a boy? I want 10 fingers. I want 10 toes. So they're focused on the outcome, so much so that they say, bring it on. Bring on 2 hours of labor. Bring on 10 hours of labor. Heck, bring on 2 days of labor. I don't want it.
Well, maybe not,
but I'll go through it, whatever it takes, no matter what. And so that's where we are right now. The best version of you is being birthed through such a time as this. Woo! Woo!
Oh my goodness. Yes. Okay. On that note, anybody have any more questions? Anybody want to ask Lisa anything? Come on. Now's the moment. All right. All right. And make sure you get the book. We're going to close up in about 2 minutes. And I know there's a delay on this, so we'll wait just a second.
I love it. I love the comments. I love all the comments. I love the comments. I love the comments, Maria. I love the comments, Facebook users. I love the comments, Ruth, Shauna. I love your comments, Dodge. I love it, Janet, Leslie. I love your comments. Thank you so much, Charmel. Thank you, Denise. I love your comments. Yeah.
To get more of this conversation, go to her website at motivatingthemasses.com, because I know you've got some classes and courses up there. Definitely get the book. Definitely get, no matter what. You've got to.
This I gotta tell you, you gotta give them a caveat list. So if you have not read the book yet, I know many of you have read the book, but if you have not read the book yet, it does get spicy.
Yes, it does.
It gets spicy. So grab your favorite glass of water or whatever you love, because there's some parts where you're going to say, ooh, did she say that? It was so revealing. This book is so revealing that every time I got a notice from my publisher that it had sold in a different language, like it sold in Spanish, then it sold in Bulgaria, I freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, now they know my issues in Bulgarian. Oh my God, now they know my issues in Swazi. Like every time it had all, I freaked out. And when someone would tell me I read no matter what, I felt like we had a slumber party.
Yes.
We stayed overnight together, and they let me sit up and tell them who I really am behind the black curtain.
It's exquisite. Every single word, every single moment. I just absolutely love this.
Janet says, Janet says, I like spicy.
Yes.
Yes, Janet.
So refreshing. Janice, my event coordinator, is there saying, you are so refreshing. Yeah, I think you remember Janice from our events.
I do. You're wonderful.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us out there. And Lisa, oh my goodness, what a blessing you are. Hang right there just a second. I'm going to end the broadcast. And I just want to remind you that next month's book is going to be something by Rob Bell. I'm not announcing it now, but it's by Rob Bell. Okay, everyone. Mwah. Love you all so much. See you soon. And we're going to go out dancing here. We're going to go out dancing.